Welcome to the Flipped Podcast.
Or Flip Ed.
However you hear it, this is a place for joy and dreaming of education.
In each episode, you will hear from educators with an idea, a vision, a revolutionary thought that could flip a switch and change schools for our changed world.
I'm LaShawn.
I'm Mike.
Welcome to Flipped.
Welcome to Flip Ed.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, LaShawn.
How's it going?
It's good. You?
I'm okay. I don't exactly know how you talked us into doing a live podcast in front of an entire audience.
Yes.
I'm still trying to figure out where that idea came from.
Let's just show that there's an audience here. Can you guys make some noise for a second so they can hear you? Yeah.
Yes, so there are people here with us.
That's right.
Right now.
I figured we didn't know what we were doing anyway, so why not just go out and
what could go wrong?
Do it publicly even more.
Yeah, exactly. And then you abandon our script and our structure and everything. We're going rogue.
We are going completely rogue today. So, but we're going to do this joyfully.
Yes, and we have an amazing guest.
Yeah.
Dr. Gholdy Muhammad is the John Corbally Endowed Professor of Literacy, Language, and Culture at the University of Illinois in Chicago. She has previously served as a classroom teacher, literacy specialist, school district administrator, curriculum director, and school board president. She studies Black historical excellence in education, intending to reframe curriculum and instruction today. Dr. Muhammad's scholarship has appeared in leading academic journals and books. She has also received numerous national awards and is the author of the best-selling books Cultivating Genius and Unearthing Joy. She also co-authored the book Black Girls Literacies. Her culturally and historically responsive education model has been adopted across thousands of U.S. schools and districts across Canada. In 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, she was named among the top 1% Edu-Scholar Public Influencers due to her impact on policy and practice. She has led a federal grant with the United States Department of Education to study culturally and historically responsive literacy in STEM classrooms. In the fall of 2026, her first curriculum entitled Genius and Joy will be available to schools and educators. Wow, welcome, Dr. Muhammad.
Thank you.
We're so excited you're here.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome.
So just before we get started, first of all, both LaShawn and I are fangirling completely.
Totally fangirling.
Y'all are so sweet.
And I will just say, we're at the 15th Annual Progressive Education Summit in Baltimore.
Wow.
And so we're gathered on a cold January day.
Yeah.
But I've told everybody so far that we have had 15 keynotes. That you're the 15th. And, they're all wonderful, accomplished people. But you've just been one of the kindest and warmest ones
For sure.
all the way through. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I try to live out the work that I write about for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we even dive into talking about your flip, can you share a little bit with us about
Oh, sorry. That's my prayer time going off. Okay.
All right.
It doesn't stop. Go ahead.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit with us about of all the things that you could have been doing in the world, what brought you to being an educator?
I mean, at one point I did want to be Janet Jackson's backup dancer.
I love that.
I thought for sure.
I love
but
that.
then I'm like, you're really not a trained dancer.
Okay.
So I don't know how that'll work.
That was the barrier.
But
It's not too late.
It's not too late. That's what I'm talking about. For me, I've always, even since a young girl, paid attention to my body and how my body feels. And when I was making my little lesson plans with my green chalkboard and making my big brother Abdullah be my student in my makeshift class and teaching the lesson plans I had written, I just remember that feeling. It was like something was swooshing and joy was all around my body. I felt empowered. I felt excited and happy. And I still feel that way today when I teach or when I write lesson plans. It's just that feeling, and I'm so glad that I was able to name it and understand it and recognize it. So I'm just always in tune to my body in that way, more so now as I'm older, of how my body feels when I'm doing something. That's how I know I'm in the right profession and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It really isn't too late to live out that dance dream.
Well, I dance. I love what you said. It's not too late, because I think that many of us think that whatever we are supposed to do, like after college or right when we're 20s. We're supposed to do it for the rest of our lives. So, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a professor. I'm also a poetry writer, a literary writer. I like to do so many things that contribute to the profession, but also just on my own because it gives me joy.
Awesome.
Did you go to school to be a teacher?
Yes, I did. I went to school to be a teacher. I studied elementary education up to middle school. I did not think I would be a middle school teacher. I thought I would be an elementary school teacher. And, the kindergarten pre-teaching time, they gave me a run. I'm like, whoo, this is tough. I mean, I think every grade level has its own challenges, but also their own joys, developmental joys. But when I got to middle school, I said, no, this is my place.
So you loved middle school?
I love middle
Me
school.
too.
Yeah, I taught literature and ELA and social studies.
Yeah. We always say that there's a special place for middle school teachers.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a special group.
And if you can survive middle school as a kid and then survive
Very
teaching
true.
it, woo,
Very
who knows
true.
what you could do in this world.
Very true. So this podcast is really about sitting with folks in the work, connected to the work, and thinking about knowing that one thing won't change it, but thinking about if there was one thing that you could do in the landscape of education to change, to make better, to make space, what is that one thing? What would your flip be?
Well, my flip will be curriculum. I love curriculum. I love writing it. I love studying it. I love seeing expansive notions of curriculum, moving beyond looking at curriculum as a packaged set of materials,
Right.
a textbook. But I see curriculum as the legacies we leave. I see curriculum as the stories we tell. I see curriculum as the beautiful stories that we teach and tell, the legacies, and just the world around us. I can look at anything, and people sometimes joke with me. They're like, toothpaste, make a lesson with your 5 pursuits with toothpaste. And I'm like, I'm ready. So I can look at objects and things and people and places and say, I see curriculum.
Yeah.
While other people, like a scientist might see science or a mathematician, I see curriculum. And if I could flip the curriculum in our schools to be more joyful, to be more engaging, to be more purposeful, and to follow this beautiful ancestry we have around the 5 pursuits of identity, skills, intellect, criticality, and joy. So if we could do something like that, that would be so beautiful. So that's my flip. And I knew it would be my flip because 2 years ago, I started writing my own curriculum. I funded it.
Wow.
I wrote it because it was a dream. And I said, I talk about a curriculum like this. Let me create it.
Can you name the 5
Pursuits.
pursuits again?
Identity, number 1. Number 2 is skills, skill development. Number 3, intellectualism. Number 4, criticality. And number 5, joy.
And how did you get to those 5?
I studied historical records. I studied primary sources, newspaper, literary writings, what they wrote about education in schools. There were these books, there was a school, the African Free School, they would put a report, a 50-page report of what happened during the school year, what the children learned. That was from 1820. Mm-hmm. And I read that. So I read the Literary Society members' writings. And I said to myself, what were their goals for education? And I said, wow, they were really talking about getting to know themselves and learning about other cultures. And then, like we do as researchers, we start to organize what we're seeing. And I then shrunk it or made it more concise into those 5 areas. So criticality was initially called something else in my research. And so I thought criticality was a stronger word. So I put the names on top of what I would see in their actions and their practices. But the word pursuit, I call these 5 pursuits. Every time they referred to their learning goals or educational endeavors, they named them as pursuits. So that's how they got called the pursuits. But yeah, and I have examples, this is how they elevated joy, this is how they elevated skill, and so forth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So would it be wrong to name how suspicious I am of curriculum?
I'm suspicious too. You should be.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the kind of curriculum that you're talking about in writing and the kinds of curriculum that we are suspicious about?
So the difference is when we wrote it, it wasn't just me. It was a group of diverse writers. Culturally diverse, racially diverse, gender, everything, where they are in the country. One writer has been a teacher for 40 years. We had input from children. A lot of curriculum don't even have input or readers of children, writers of children. We had administrators. So first it was like how we came into it. And then what makes it so different are the 5 pursuits. Most curriculum is written to only teach, measure, or assess skill. And then that means you only have a limitation of theory.
Right.
So my curriculum has multiple theories to it. You have cognition, you have social cultural theory, critical theories. You can go on and on. Feminism, Black feminism. You will see theories come alive in the K-5 curriculum. So what is the most standout, like I said, is that it's aligned to teach, measure, and assess identity, skills, intellect, criticality, and joy. I love that there's a localizing the content section. You know, I saw one school district with all this rich history, but I couldn't find it anywhere in the curriculum. And I said, well, how can you not have Motown in Detroit schools, right? That's an example. So there's a section where teachers have to localize and bring that genius, justice, and joy of their community, of their elders, of their history in their local town or city to the curriculum. There is an amazing parent, caregiver, home connection, you know, where they may have to do something engaging and engage in media. It's not like traditional homework, but it's an elevation of what they're learning in the classroom, but in a fun, sustained way. There are misconceptions to clear up. So in traditional curriculum, if you teach hard topics like racism or pain, you just kind of start there. No, we're going to teach this history. As an example, there's a Juneteenth lesson, and traditionally when Juneteenth is taught, it's like Abraham Lincoln and emancipation freed Black people. That's a misconception. Black people freed themselves. So there are sections to clear up misconceptions. There's Student Spark. There's Science of Reading with culturally responsiveness. You don't ever see that. And that's just the short list.
So when students engage with this curriculum, that sounds incredible. What does that do for them? What does it look like for a student to engage in a curriculum like this?
Yeah, so there was a part of my sharing with educators today where I said, you experience the most sublime emotions that animate the human soul. That was written by Black ancestors in 1837, that learning should help you to experience the most sublime emotions that will animate your soul. That's the goal I had. For children, I wanted that joy to flow through their body. I want them to be engaged. I want them to know that as you're getting to know who you are, I want this curriculum to help you to have a stronger sense of self, but also know about diverse people around the world who may not look like you. I want them to know those proficiencies and skills. I want them to come away with new knowledge, but also coming away of how to use that new knowledge and that skill to make the world better, to make yourselves better. And then I want them, to have joy and wonder and imagination. So that's why it's entitled Genius and Joy, because it cultivates their genius, it excites and ignites their joy.
And I have another question for you. What kind of teacher needs to implement this curriculum?
All teachers. So with my team of writers, writing curriculum is a difficult genre. I love it, and I'm like, oh, this is a new genre to write.
Yeah.
Because you almost have to write for a teacher who has no clue on culturally responsiveness,
Exactly.
on engagement and motivation, classroom management, all the things like those topics, hot topics. Let's say they have no idea. They might be 21, 22, fresh out of college, not yet taught yet. And then you may have the teacher that's been teaching 20, 30 years who know pedagogy really well, and they're ready for it. They're ready for anything. And then you have people in between. So that was the challenge. I wanted a curriculum that anyone can pick up and read. I mean, there's some places like some teacher talk guidance for those who need that. Like, this is how you can talk about sounds and fluency. And then there's options for, in the curriculum, there's spaces. It's like a Genius Garden space where teachers can adapt, change, and add text.
Yeah.
So it's like, I see teachers as creative artists, and I want them to say, you don't have to teach this as is, you can adapt and create. So there's drawing space and writing space for teachers too. So it's for all the teachers, the ones who are just getting started and might be struggling, and those who are accelerated, and all of those in between.
I just want to say I'm like stuck on Genius Garden.
Yeah.
That's what we call ourselves, the writers. We call ourselves the Genius Garden.
Wow.
I want to circle back in a minute to like where you really came to center around joy.
Yeah.
But before we do, there's somebody in the audience who fed me a question for the podcast. Okay. So we talked about how teachers can access it, or where do they start? But how do we get our leaders and the people who are outside of a classroom to also see curriculum as not scripted, as curriculum that has space for teachers to be artists, as centering joy and imagination and wonder in the same ways that we're centering all the other kinds of learning we want kids to do? How do we bring leaders into that space as well?
I mean, so this is where we got to think of ourselves as just humans. How do you get humans to believe anything else? If I say, I don't believe I can cook or be able to manage things, I have to see an example. I don't believe I can find somebody in life who could be a good partner and be smart. I may have to see an example. See, we have to for possibility to be believed in, I think folks need to see it and feel it and experience it. Because if not, they're just going to go with, oh, this is the only thing I've seen. This is what I know. That can happen, and that can be very harmful for the individual and for hope and for progress. So one thing I love to do, I love working with school board members. And some of them have never...
I've never heard that phrase very often.
I do. Well, that's because I worked on the school board and served as school board president. They have to manage a lot, and many of them have no background in education, formally. But you know why I love to work with board members? Because they make a lot of decisions for our children and have never experienced the culturally responsive lesson plan, have never written it, have never experienced the 5 pursuits, have never seen children's face light up when they've experienced it. I mean, I've been teaching with these 5 pursuits for 15 years. The books are a little newer, but I've been working with this model and research for years. So I like to give school board members, principals, superintendents, I want them to experience the 5 pursuits. A superintendent told me, well, Gholdy, I use the 5 pursuits for dating. And I said, what you talking about?
For dating?
For dating.
That's a different podcast.
But listen, listen, I said, tell me more. That's what I always tell people. Tell me more. Because when you think about it, you may be looking for a friend or a partner who has identity, who knows who they are, but also has some knowledge about other people. You want somebody with skills. You want somebody with knowledge. You want somebody with criticality. You don't want somebody who's just like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. You're like, what? That's injustice. And then you want somebody, my Lord, with joy. And if you've never dated somebody without joy, you don't experience it. Because people without joy, it's different. Yeah. But what the superintendent was telling me is that this is not just a pedagogical model. This is a life model. That's how you know you have something good in curriculum, when you can apply it to your life. So when I'm working with leaders who might be reluctant or may not know, I like to teach them, what do the 5 pursuits mean to your life? What are your goals? As a result, what people are calling portrait of a graduate now, but as a result of coming to our district, what kind of qualities do we want of our children? And many times they say empathy, fun, smart, good test taker, good writer, loves themselves, know themselves, but then we only teach skills. When you look at the curriculum, it's a disconnect between all those beautiful words to how and what we teach and learn from. The curriculum must align.
I have one more question, and I think maybe LaShawn has one final one too. I want to ask about joy. Okay. Well, we've had some conversations about, in a world right now that doesn't always, certainly doesn't value joy in schools, but also doesn't feel particularly joyful. Is it almost negligent to be focusing on joy in classroom spaces when there's so much we need to be, confronting in the world? So can you just speak to like why joy is one of those pursuits and why it's essential or not,
So it's a very strong and harmful misconception when we think we have to choose. We have to choose skill over joy, criticality, anti-oppression, anti-racism over identity. Who says that? I think it's important to first confront what's being told to us or those internal feelings that say that we have to choose. I know personally in my life, when I think about my friendships, when I think about my beautiful partner, I don't want to choose when it comes to the qualities I look for and need. Yeah. I don't want that. I don't want a job that gives me skill development, that allows me to practice my skill, or that allows me to grow as a person. I don't want to have to choose. Yeah. And I think our children in K-12 schools, we should not, they need it all. And if they need perhaps joy a little bit stronger that day than criticality because of all the harms in the world, then give them joy more that week. Or, you know what I'm saying? They need it. The system has taught us skill. And what has that done for us? I just look at leaders around the world who have created harm through their speech, through their actions, and I just keep asking myself, wow, I wonder in K-12, what happened if they would have had joy and identity and criticality? Maybe they wouldn't inflict harm to other people if you had criticality. Yeah. So we can turn on the news, and that should be enough of a justification for the 5 pursuits. Yeah. It's like water. I shouldn't have to convince you that water is good for your body. I shouldn't have to convince you that the 5 pursuits are, because they're so a part of what's needed in life. Yeah. So I want us to feel like we can have it all. And if the ancestors had all 5 of those 5 pursuits, given the ways they were treated, talked to, looked at, harmed, given everything that was going on, the turmoil, certainly we can do it today.
Absolutely.
They're my motivation.
Absolutely. So while folks are waiting for fall for your curriculum to come out, what is a starting point for folks in the classroom, on the ground, in front of kids every day who are wanting to center joy in their classroom spaces? Where do they start?
Well, joy can be what's around the classroom. Like I like to say, joy environment are there colors up? Are there leading thinkers, quotes? Does it feel like a place that you walk in and live out your full potential? Joy can be in the materials we teach. Like when I taught an architectural unit, I brought in architectural tools, and it can be in the materials we teach as well. Joy can be in how we talk to children, how we start the class. Like let's start with a joy spark. And, for the first 3 to 5 minutes, we look at art or listen to music. It can be like that. It can look in so many different ways. Or you can say, I'm writing a joy, I'm teaching this unit on American history, and I'm going to add a joy objective to teach formally and assess. So there are things you can do. A good starting point, I always say, do that self-reflection, and I write about it in Unearthing Joy, what these 5 pursuits mean in your life. And then just open your curriculum, just look at the unit plans and say, where can I lift up these 5? What am I already doing around these 5 pursuits? And maybe start with 3 pursuits. You don't have to go in. And certainly I have one thing I'm always going to give people are examples. So I have examples in the book. While the curriculum is out, you can get a free unit plan of the curriculum. I love free things. I love it so much. I want to give it to others. Folks email me for more examples. So we're not short of examples to just look at in the meantime.
Yeah. Dr. Gholdy Muhammad, we are inspired by your work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I think from now on, every time I invite Mike into my space, I'm going to say, come into my genius garden.
Ooh.
So I appreciate that language.
See what you started, Gholdy.
Feel like a song. Come into my genius garden.
Yeah, and the song will go with it. So thank you for that language, because I will absolutely be using that.
Wonderful.